Hey everybody, Devin here. Thanks for watching Fresh Pitchfork Founder. Today's video is on this book right here, Managing Oneself by Peter Drucker. And he was a profound, renowned professor at the Harvard Business School, and he wrote many books. This is just one of them. And as I was reviewing the content, again, today's video is based on the 4 ways someone learns. But as I was reviewing it, this is such a great book. I couldn't believe it was this small when I bought it and paid $12 for it, but it is definitely worth the read and very inspirational as well. So I'll just jump into it and then I'll highlight the books. So the four ways anybody learns, and as I was reviewing it, it's not just known as how you learn, it's also having to do with how you perform. So the 4 ways anybody learns or performs, and you should be aware of this as well as aware of it in others as well, and that is, are you a reader or a listener? If you can answer that question, it'll give you a better understanding of how you learn. There's also those who learn by doing, or those who learn by writing, as well as those who learn through hearing themselves speak, through talking. So those are the 5, actually it's 5 ways to learn instead of 4 as I reviewed the content. So those are the 5: reading, listening, writing, talking, or doing. So I actually believe I am a talker, which isn't as unusual as many may seem, but those are the 5, and there's great examples in this book of each profound learning style. One specific example is John F. Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson. So John F. Kennedy was a reader, or let me see here, I think John F. Kennedy was a listener. So he had all of his meetings and all of his notes spoken to him. He wanted to listen to this important information. And when he was assassinated and Lyndon B. Johnson stepped in, he had to adjust quite quickly on the fly. He was the complete opposite, and he was a reader. So he actually, through kind of some conflict, switched the staff around to treat his needs, so more that they would write everything down. Instead of anybody speaking to him, he would just have a list of notes to read through in the morning, and that is how he performed best. So just to keep this video short for Labor Day, happy Labor Day everybody, by the way, I just want to go over some highlights with this book. And I won't get into the first page, because the first page is even an awesome first sentence that I wanted to mention, but I won't. Save that for when you buy the book. It's a great book, definitely get it. The link is in below for Amazon. So the first thing the book asks is, what are my strengths? Most people think they know what they are good at. They're usually wrong. More often, people know what they are not good at, and even then, more people are wrong than right. And yet a person can perform only from strength. One cannot build performance on weaknesses, let alone on something one cannot do at all. So that's one thing I wanted to mention about strengths. So to be effective and efficient, you have to perform the best way you do perform. And you can't, there's no point in meddling with the fact that you're weak at performing another way. Well, why would you even perform that way? Because others want you to perform that way. Well, you can actually have your cake and eat it too by speaking this into existence. Telling people, no, hey, listen, I can't hear you when you speak. You need to write this down. That's what I've been doing. It hasn't been working out too well. Maybe I'll have to send them in a text message. So the next best thing is, how do I perform? That's the next thing that the book asks. Amazingly, few people know how they get things done. Indeed, most of us do not even know that different people work and perform differently. Too many people work in ways that are not their ways, and that almost guarantees non-performance. For knowledge workers, how do I perform? Maybe an even more important question than what are my strengths? And then it gets into, am I a reader or a listener? The first thing to know is whether you are a reader or a listener. So, I'm not going to explain, the difference between a reader and a listener. These are more obviously common sense things that you will realize as you learn more about how you best perform. Another thing that they ask is, where do I belong? It says a small number of people know very early where they belong. Mathematicians, musicians, and cooks, for instance, are usually mathematicians, musicians, and cooks by the time that they are 4 or 5 years old. So this is something to keep in mind too, because as we go on through society, we may know what we want to do, but others may make us bend to their will, and we'll neglect ourselves, and we'll have to come back to it later on to really live a full life. So those are the basic things that I really wanted to include. There was one other thing that I wanted to say in this book, and it was about Winston Churchill and his learning style. So let me get to that 1 second. Let me set this phone down for a moment. How do I learn? This was the part I wanted to include. The second thing to know about how one performs is to know how one learns. Many first-class writers, Winston Churchill is but one example, do poorly in school. They tend to remember their schooling as pure torture, yet few of their classmates remember it the same way. They may not have enjoyed the school very much, but the worst they suffered was boredom. The explanation is that writers do not, as a rule, learn by listening and reading. They learn by writing. Because schools do not allow them to learn this way, they get poor grades. Now, this is all from a professor, Peter Drucker, at Harvard Business School from the 50s. And if he was preaching this information back then, I even see it, changing in the atmosphere of business today, and them taking it becoming more of a mass-consumed ideology. So people realize that to get the job done the best and have the best employee where he needs to be built for that position. He needs to be treated the way he needs to be treated, which means being aware of how he learns, what his strengths and weaknesses are, and what his values are, and where he wants to contribute. These are very important things that employees are now considering, and this is actually leading a whole movement, I believe, in employee and employer relations. So just a little quick touch on that, and make sure you get this book. Again, I paid $8.95 for it. Definitely worth the read. Have in your library for the rest of your life. So tomorrow's video is going to be on market maps, and something that I like to call, that isn't mine. I actually learned this from Russell Brunson, and that is what he calls the ideal 100. This could be your ideal 100 customers, your ideal 100 partners, or your ideal 100 media channels but that's basically your partners as well. So that's what the video is on tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Enjoy your Labor Day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching Fresh Pitchfork Founder.